I love Amphoreus. The places look amazing, the story is awesome, the characters are interesting, I just can't get enough of it. I know many of you will disagree, but I thought nothing in this game would have ever been better than Penacony, the planet that really made me completely fall in love with the game. But Amphoreus is on a whole different level, and with my obsession over Greek and Roman mythology, this is just the perfect planet in the Star Rail universe for me. That being said, there are tons of mysteries that still need to be uncovered, and obviously the biggest one has to do with the Titans. So today we will try to figure out what's up with them, who they are, and above all where the story is heading toward. But first, this is a theory video and leaks are prohibited in the comment section. I will use information available in the game, but my theories and conclusions are not to be considered the official lore of the game, unless I got something right and it's confirmed in a later update of the game itself. So, grab your core flames and let's get this video started! Amphoreus was created by 12 titans that are usually split in 4 categories: the Titans of Fate, the Titans of Foundation, the Titans of Creation, and the Titans of Calamity. It was clear since the first trailer, at least to me, that the Titans would have been related to the Aeons, especially because the Aeons that are still alive are also 12. So in this chapter I'll introduce each Titan using Kephale's lunar calendar. I'll talk about the corresponding Chrysos Heir, the corresponding Aeon, although I'll skip 3 of them because they need 2 dedicated chapters, and then where the Titan's name comes from. The first 3 months of the year represent the Titans of Fate, those who wove the threads of fate. The first month of the year, the month of Gate, is associated with Janus, who bears the title of Gate of Infinity and the core flame of Passage. Janus, as we already know, has already died and the core flame has been stolen by Tribios, the Triplets of Fate, thousands of years ago, turning her into the very first demigod of Amphoreus. We'll talk about the Aeon later, but when it comes to the name of this Titan, Janus is the Roman god of beginnings, gates, transitions, time, duality, doorways, passages, frames, and endings, and it also gave the name to the first month of the year, Januarius, January. The second month, the month of balance, is associated with Talanton, who bears the title of Scale of Justice and the core flame of Law. Talanton is also already dead, and although it's not official yet, the demigod that inherited the core flame has to be Seridra or Seridra, the Chrysos Heir who saved Tribi when some villains imprisoned her while she and her countless other copies were spreading the prophecy and looking for the Chrysos Heirs. Since Seridra was the one who united the Chrysos Heirs and turned the prophecy into law, she just has to be the demigod of law. I firmly believe that Talanton mirrors who the Equilibrium. I mean, Talanton created the balance coins to ensure equivalent exchange, and the name itself in ancient Greek means balance, so it's hard to think otherwise. The third month, the month of Evernight, is associated with Orynyx, who bears the title of Veil of Evernight and the core flame of Time. Orynyx is also the Titan of the night, and before the Black Tide arrived, Amphoreus had an actual day and night cycle thanks to both Orynyx, the night, and Aquila, the day. Orynyx died in version 3.1, but we have no idea who the Chrysos Heir is gonna be, although it seems that the Trailblazer is gonna become the demigod of time. Obviously enough, Orynyx mirrors fully the Remembrance, because Orynyx was known to collect eroded memories of the past to prevent them from being forgotten. Their miracles can quite literally show the past in a tangible way, and we also got the Path of the Remembrance. The name Orynyx seems to be a mix between 2 ancient Greek words, Oros, meaning mountain, and Yader, massive, and Nyx, night, from which the Greek goddess of the night, Nyx, takes her name. The 4th, 5th, and 6th months represent the Titans of Foundation, those who carved the heavens and earth. The 4th month, the month of cultivation, is associated with Georios, who bears the title of Pillar of Stone and the core flame of earth. Georios is already dead, we don't know who inherited the core flame, but out of exclusion, I think it's the Kalpas lookalike with the flame in his hand, whose name we don't even know. I'll skip the Aeon for later, but the name Georios comes once again from the ancient Greek word Yorgos, meaning farmer or earth worker, which makes sense considering that Georios created the mountains, but also the mountain dwellers and the Dromases, and these last ones literally eat earth. The 5th month, the month of joy, is associated with Phagusa, who bears the title of Chalice of Plenty and the core flame of Ocean. Phagusa is dead, and the Chrysos heir that inherited the core flame is technically still unknown, but it's more than clear there's gonna be High Silence, or High Silence, I have no idea, the girl playing the violin who in Aglaya's character story 3 is referred to as the faint melodies echoing from the depths of the sea. And in the Divergent universe, Protean hero, each titan from the Titan Odes is represented by a Chrysos heir in the Golden Blood's boons, so Mnestia and Aglaya, Janus and Tribius, Zagreus and Cyphra, Nicador and Mydemos, Thanatos and Castores, and out of exclusion Phagusa and High Silence, who also grants us the Swan Song. Besides, we saw her in the first trailer commanding the water around her, so... The Aeon instead may seem harder to figure out. Because this titan is associated with water and the sea, we could think of Long the Permanence, but we're only using Aeons that are still alive, so the obvious choice here is Yaosha the Abundance, both because Phagusa tried to wash clean the filth of the world and because, you know, Chalice of Plenty, Abundance. Anyway, the name Phagusa supposedly comes from the ancient Greek suffix phagos, meaning eater, or maybe from Phaethusa, the goddess of radiance, who was the daughter of an Oceanid. The sixth month, the month of Everday, is associated with Aquila, who bears the title of Eye of Twilight and the core flame of Sky. Aquila is still alive. They were blinded by the black tide, so they simply closed their 100 eyes that once illuminated the world, sending Amphoreus in a permanent nighttime. Aquila is also the titan that prevents anyone from leaving Amphoreus or from even approaching the sky, punishing those who dare defy their rules so hard they literally become a calamity. The core flame is still in Aquila's hands, but we also already know Hyacinth is the Chrysos heir who will inherit it, and it seems that she will lose her life in the process, just like Anaxagoras. When it comes to the corresponding Aeon, I think it's Land the Hunt, especially because the express car that tried to land on Amphoreus was taken down by a massive arrow from the sky, which makes me think it was Aquila noticing someone's presence in the sky and striking them down as a punishment. They might be blind, but their aim was spot on. By the way, in case you call that a spear, arrows are also associated with Aquila in the first trailer. Aquila's name comes from the constellation of Aquila, and it simply means eagle. In fact, in Italian, our word for eagle is indeed Aquila. The 7th, 8th, and 9th months represent the titans of creation, those who molded life with their hands. The 7th month, the month of freedom, is associated with Kephale, who bears the title of Throne of Worlds and the core flame of World Bearing. Kephale is the Sky Father, the massive 4-armed titan we see in Okema, who bears a dawn device on their shoulders, a device originally created by Aquila that stopped working when they closed their eyes, until Kephale decided to sacrifice their core flame to ignite it again, allowing Okema to still enjoy the light of day. It is more than clear that Phynon, the nameless hero, is the Chrysos heir who will eventually inherit Kephale's core flame, like who even believed for a second he would pass Nicador's trial. I'll skip the Aeon for later, but the name probably comes from the ancient Greek word kephale, meaning head, while their design looks like the Titan Atlas from Greek mythology who bears the world on his shoulders. The 8th month, the month of reaping, is associated with Xerxes, who bears the title of Bow of Rift and the core flame of Reason. Xerxes is still barely alive. They took refuge in Anaxagoras' dead body, keeping him alive while also being dead. Yes, Anaxagoras' Star Rail's Chi-Chi.
Zombie, are you scared?
Anyway, Anaxagoras the Foolish, or the Demise Scholar, inherited the core flame of Reason. Xerxes is the massive tree with a face in the Grove of Epiphany, and they impart wisdom and knowledge to all who seek it, while also infusing every plant on the entire planet with their power. Xerxes is basically the Dendro Archon of Amphoreus. Of course, the Aeon Xerxes Mirrors is Nous the Erudition, and lastly, when it comes to the name, I'm not quite convinced with what the wiki says. According to them, Xerxes might come from Kirkos or Krikos, meaning rain, but I fail to see any kind of connection, or from Circe, the enchantress and minor goddess from Greek mythology, known for her knowledge about potions and herbs, but it still doesn't really fit. I think Xerxes simply comes from Ceres, or in English Ceres, the Roman goddess of agriculture, aka Demeter in ancient Greece, mainly because she wore a crown of wheat spikes, similar to how Circe, as Calypso, wears something like a crown of branches, but also because Xerxes rules over plants and the seed that gave Kephale turned into the Garden of Wisdom in Okama. The 9th month, the month of weaving, is associated with Nestia, bearing the title of Chrysalis of Gold and the core flame of Romance. Nestia died quite a long time ago when they transformed into the Chrysalis of Gold as an act of love towards Xerxes. Long story short, Nestia loved Xerxes, but Xerxes didn't care, so Nestia died crying, came back to life as a humanoid, and left to learn about love. When they came back, Nestia used the love they found to weave a golden chrysalis and gifted it to Xerxes, so Nestia was once again reborn but as a butterfly, and in the end, both titans became inseparable and interdependent for survival. Anyway, Nestia's core flame was inherited by Aglaia, the Gold Weaver, and the Aeon that I think Nestia mirrors is Sheepa the Harmony, who is all about living in harmony without strife and pain, like a big happy loving family, so it sounds appropriate. If you thought about Idrilla the Beauty, remember that they died, so it can't be them. When it comes to the name Nestia, it could come from the Greek word Nistis, which surprisingly means remembrance, or from the goddess of memory Mnemosyne, or from the exact opposite, the word amnestia, forgetfulness. Honestly, I can't see the connection with all three possibilities. Yes, Aglaia is on the path of remembrance, but so is Caceres, and she has nothing to do with neither Nestia nor Orynyx, so it doesn't really mean much. The last 3 months of the year represent the Titans of Calamity, those who guided Calamity's gate. The 10th month, the month of strife, is associated with Nicodor, who bears the title of Lance of Fury and the core flame of strife. We defeated Nicodor in 3.0, and Mydei, glory to our king, I can't wait for his banner to be up, Mydei the Undying became the demigod of strife. In the beginning, Nicodor wasn't really an evil titan, they protected Amphoreus by balancing things out, taking on the role of the necessary evil, but when the Black Tide arrived they fought it tirelessly until they were eventually corrupted by it and they fell into endless madness. The only Aeon Nicodor could be mirroring is obviously Nanook the Destruction. Nanook, just like Nicodor, is also the necessary evil. They don't bring destruction for fun, there's always a specific reason behind their actions, otherwise they would have recognized the Annihilation Gang instead of ignoring them completely. Lastly, the name Nicodor comes from the ancient Greek word Nikator, conqueror. The 11th month, the month of mourning, is associated with Thanatos, bearing the title Hand of Shadow, I guess they're my hand now, and the core flame of death. No one knows where Thanatos is, nor if they're alive or not. It almost sounds like they don't even really exist since not even Nicodor has ever seen them. The Chrysos heir who will eventually inherit Thanatos' core flame is obviously Caceres, the daughter of Reaver Styx or the Servant of Death, who is actively looking for Thanatos because they have something of hers and she wants it back, and this is what prevents her from touching anybody without sending them straight to the afterlife. I initially thought Thanatos took her soul or her ability to give life, but in the first dawn of Destiny it seems that Caceres is trapped in the past, so Thanatos probably took her future. This means that although it seems like she's poisoning people to death, she's probably taking their future away, she's annihilating their possibility to move forward. Also interesting about Castoris is the fact that the Trailblazer didn't die in 3.1 despite having touched her, but back in 3.0, if we gave Aglaya the wrong answers, and trust me I was sweating during that test, Castoris would have taken the Trailblazer's life by simply touching him, and we even got a description of the afterlife. I can't wait for 3.2 to understand how her powers work and above all, what this scene is supposed to mean. Anyway, when it comes to the Aeon Thanatos mirrors, I gave it away earlier, but it just has to be IX Nihility. After Penacony, it is clear that death in the universe means ended up inside IX, so the connection between the sleep-deprived black hole and death is undeniable. When it comes to the name instead, Thanatos is the personification of death in Greek mythology. The 12th and last month of the year, the month of fortune, is associated with Zagreus, who bears the title of Coin of Whimsy and the core flame of trickery. Zagreus became a titan by accident when the people actually worshipped them when they impersonated Mnestia after stealing their seeds. Despite that, Zagreus couldn't care less about their divine duties, they just love to play tricks and cause troubles, and even their disciples don't worship them at all. Zagreus essentially represents change, so the people either curse their name to avoid thieves and ill fortune while traveling, or they invoke their name in misfortune to change things for the better. The Chrysos heir that inherited the core flame of trickery is Cyphra, aka Cypher the Fleet-Footed, the cat lady we saw in the various videos about Amphoreus, basically Star Rail's Pardofelis. Although a demigod, she abandoned the flame chase journey to do her own thing, like tricking people and using her godlike speed to steal stuff. When it comes to the Aeon, there's only one of them who likes to pull tricks on people and Aeons alike, Aha the Elation. Besides, Zagreus is depicted as a two-faced god, both smiling and crying, so the theater masks that also appear in Aha's depiction. Lastly, the name Zagreus is kinda hard to explain. In Greek mythology, Zagreus was either the son of Zeus and Persephone or the son of Hades, which in this case was called Zeus Katachthonios, Zeus of the underworld, and Persephone, but in both cases Zagreus should be an alternative name for Orphic Dionysus, the god of winemaking, orchards and fruits, vegetation, fertility, festivity, but also insanity, ritual madness, religious ecstasy, and theater. It's now time to talk about the Aeons I skipped, starting with those connected to Georios and Kephale, which will also explain the title of the video. There's Georios, the Titan of Earth, the biggest Titan but also the kindest one, who created the mountains and protected the mortal world to the point of defying Circes by spreading agricultural knowledge to give the humans a way to survive. And then there's Kephale, the god who created the humans in their image and eventually gave up on their throne to become a ray of light for the people of Okima. Painon associated preservation with the concept of being Amphoreus' guardian, and since this is what Kephale is, we could think they mirror Qlipoth the Preservation, but this causes a massive problem because there are only 3 Aeons we can choose from now, and excluding the one I linked to Janus, we only have Qlipoth the Preservation and Mythos the Enigmata. Do you see any connection between Georios and Mythos? I don't, not even one. On the other hand, Georios protected the humans and the planet by creating the mountains, the mountain dwellers created by Georios curiously used massive hammers, and Georios gifted their body to the Titans so that they could become the cornerstone of the creation of life. Qlipoth is building walls with their massive hammer to protect the universe and the people, and Diamond from the IPC, the emanator of the preservation, gave the 10 stone hearts a cornerstone to grant them unique abilities and powers. Lastly, people use the hourglass to commemorate Georios, while Qlipoth's hammer strikes mark the beginning of a new Ember era, so they're both associated with time. With Georios obviously mirroring Qlipoth, Kephale would automatically be mirroring Mythos the Enigmata, but what would that mean? Well, what if I told you that the prophecy is, indeed, a lie? What if the whole flame chase journey won't bring about salvation to Amphoreus the way the people think it will? What if Kephale twisted Oronyx's prophecy so that the Chrysos Heirs would defeat every single Titan and eventually destroy the world? I mean, isn't it weird that we know a lot about the other Titans, but we know very little about the most beloved and most important one? So my theory is very simple, although you'll understand it even better in the last chapter of the video. Kephale is not the savior. They are most likely just trying to twist everything to prevent Nous the Erudition, one of the 3 Aeons that influence Amphoreus, from finding the answer to the universe. We also have a hint that could prove this theory right. In the Ancient Hymn trailer, the narrator said,
"Then Kephale molded humans and made a calendar to mark the passage of time, giving birth to history."
Kephale gave birth to history, and one of the factions following the Enigmata is called History Fictionologists. Lastly, in case you didn't remember, the Remembrance, the second Aeon in Amphoreus by the way, is the birthplace of the Enigmata. Now, I would say that we're concluding with Janus, but we all know Janus is not the last Titan we need to talk about, but that's for later. At the beginning of the video, I said that I was gonna associate each Titan with one of the Aeons that are still alive. Reason why I didn't take into consideration Enna the Order, Long the Permanence, Idrilla the Beauty, Taceronth the Propagation, and even Ouroboros the Voracity, since no one knows what happened to them. But at the same time, we arrived on Amphoreus in the year 4931 of the Light Calendar, which means that Amphoreus was first created around 5000 years ago. And in my last Star Rail video, I deduced that Akivili might have died or disappeared or whatever happened to them around 5000 years ago as well, which means that when Amphoreus first came into existence, Akivili might have still been alive. Hence they can be taken into consideration in this video. As a consequence, as you might have guessed, I am pretty sure that Janus is mirroring Akivili the Trailblaze. Janus' power can open the doors to all broken moral worlds, create non-existent paths, and point to unseen directions, which is what Akivili did with the Astral Express when they explored the universe in search of unknown planets, while creating the Star Rail, the tracks on which the Astral Express, but also everybody like the IPC and the Xiancho Alliance, used to travel safely across the universe. This also makes me wonder, if Tribia split into countless copies of herself, progressing to a child as a consequence, could it be that back when the Astral Express was a fleet of multiple trains, Akivili went through the same and slowly shrunk to, say, a small cute being? Pam Pam, you will spill the beans sooner or later. Now, Amphoreus has 2 unresolved mysteries that we still need to talk about, and I think they both stem from the same entity. We were shown in Amphoreus' trailer the 12 Chrysos Heirs, but we also saw in this video that none of them is gonna be Oronyx's demigod, which is the reason why the Trailblazer is gonna face a trial. This means that there is one extra Chrysos Heir, one that is supposed to have died years ago, Cyrene. As soon as she was shown in the Golden Epic trailer, everybody who played Honkai Impact, me included, immediately associated Cyrene with Elysia, and back then we didn't even know her village was gonna be called Edes Elysiae. I think 2 years are enough for this not to be a spoiler anymore, but Elysia is in reality the Herrscher of Human, the first Herrscher of the previous era, but for most of the story she was believed to be the 13th Herrscher. So as soon as I saw Cyrene, I immediately thought, she's a Titan, isn't she? And that thought may have actually been right. In the anecdotes of a numerophile, it is said that there is a one true god, aka the 13th Titan, that the 12 are illusions created by natural structures and they do look like machines and golems rather than biological beings, but also that behind the 12 there is an unknowable 13th Titan that is beyond human comprehension. The book obviously ends with a contemporary writer telling people not to believe these things, otherwise they'd be defying Kephale's teachings, which again it feels like they're trying to hide and twist the truth. Then we also have the description of the Golden Scapegoat that announces the return of the 13th, who will remain as the first, and this is very important. If you watched my previous Star Rail video, I said that the Aeons are most likely pieces, or more specifically Eidolons, of another being that will come to life when the Aeons will have all died. That is, when the universe will inevitably reach its end, which in our universe is called thermal equilibrium, when nothing will be able to happen anymore, meaning that the last Aeon to die in Star Rail will probably be the Equilibrium. The Aeon that will be born then is Terminus the Finality, who will travel from the end to the beginning of the universe to reboot it all over again. If you think about it, the prophecy in Amphoreus is the exact same thing. Once the Titans will all be dead and the core flames be brought back to the vortex of Genesis, the starting point of the world that houses the primal divinity of the 12 Titans, the Chrysos Heirs will reach the promised land where the miracle of Genesis will descend, meaning that the world will be remade anew, there will be a new Genesis. This primal divinity that will go back to the inception of Amphoreus is, I believe, the Titan that mirrors the third Aeon that influences Amphoreus together with Nous and Fuli, the Aeon who most likely created Amphoreus in the first place, and that would be, once again, Terminus the Finality. Also, the fact that Nous and Fuli are watching over Amphoreus makes perfect sense. Amphoreus is a microcosm of the universe, so Nous can look for the answer to the universe by studying this planet, because Terminus is the answer to the universe. And Fuli is recording and saving knowledge for after the universe has ended, almost as if they knew that there would be something afterward. It's basically like a mix between Project Arc and Project Ember from Honkai Impact, so saving useful knowledge from the previous era for the new people of the current era. This means that, most likely, when the Flame Chase journey will have ended, only the Chrysos Heirs will survive the Genesis, something like Phosphorus and Esperos again in Honkai Impact, where the 7 Vitas use their authorities together to summon Sa, bringing the destruction of the world and a new Genesis, with only the 7 Vitas surviving it every time. The Chrysos Heirs, similarly, might also end up losing their memories and become the new Titans of this new era of Amphoreus, so whether we'll be able to stop the destruction or not, Amphoreus is most likely going to be recreated and a new era will eventually begin. Now back to Terminus, the Golden Scapegoat says that the 13 will remain as the first one, and the first Titan is Janus, who I associated with Akivili, and the reason why this makes sense is because while Akivili was looking for the end of the universe through space, so is Terminus traveling back to the beginning of the universe through time, meaning that the Titan that will be born at the end of Amphoreus will take Janus' power to go back to the primordial chaos and create the world anew. This is also what might happen in Genshin Impact, with the Tsaritsa gathering the 7 Gnosis in one place, probably summoning the Primordial One to remake the world, although we can't be sure if she knows about it, just like the 7 Vitas also didn't, but nope, Diluc, go back to Teyvat, this is Jing Yuan's moment to shine. Anyway, back to Amphoreus, I think Serene is both the 13th and the first Titan, one that mirrors the finality. So the Titan that was born at the beginning of time, whose power was split and given to the 12 Titans, and that will become complete once again at the end of time to go back to the beginning and become once more the first ever Titan of Amphoreus. Of course, if we're talking about Serene, we should also talk about the Flame Reaver. Because the Flame Reaver was reborn from the Black Tide, it means that he once died, so I initially thought that he was in reality Cyrene. On the other hand, Phynon and the Reaver have a lot in common, although they're opposites. Phynon is right-handed and his shoulder guard is on the right, while the Reaver is left-handed with the shoulder guard on the left. Phynon is all about the sun, while the Reaver is mostly about the moon, except for the sun symbols on their shoulder guards and on their swords, which also have a similar shape. Now, the achievements we get by fighting the Reaver, one who lost her shadow and one who is without shadow, might give us a hint. Every Chrysos heir was born with golden blood, and the ability to inherit a Titan's core flame, But probably because of Talanton's law, they all lost something as an equivalent exchange, like Aglaia's sight and eventually humanity, or Tribius's individuality, so Finon might have lost his shadow. What does that mean? Well, Finon never really saw the Reaver back in Aedes Elysiae, he only saw the village being destroyed and the people dying, Sarene included. Which makes me think that Finon had been corrupted by the Black Tide and that he destroyed the village, reason why he's also the sole survivor. Sarene instead most likely defeated the corrupted Finon, and with her sacrifice she split him into two opposite beings, the good Finon, the sun who doesn't remember the truth, and the evil Finon, the moon. Both Finons died and only came back to life recently, so the reason why no one has ever heard of Aedes Elysiae before they met Finon, although it looks like it was behind Kephale since they're facing the opposite way in this scene, is because the village was, in reality, destroyed back when the Black Tide first appeared thousands of years ago. In fact, Finon clearly remembers a red blood half-sun in the sky, which is what we saw in the first Amphoreus trailer right after the Black Tide corrupted the world, which is also when the golden blood that caused the birth of the Chrysos Heirs appeared. This is yet another thing in common between Sarene and Elysia. Oversimplified, Elysia, the first Herrscher, asked Kevin to fight and defeat her, so that in the next era there would have been a chance that the new Herrschers would have chosen to side with humanity like her, changing the fate of the world and finally defeating the Honkai. In Sarene's case, she was also defeated by Finon, who is clearly Star Rail's Kevin, and her death probably caused the Golden Blood, which also gave humanity a chance against the Black Tide, since the Chrysos Heirs can now obtain and use the powers of the Titans to bring salvation to Amphoreus. To conclude the video, the only thing we haven't talked about is the Black Tide. Judging by its effects on Amphoreus, Dan Heng noticed that the Black Tide could be a Stellaron, but the one inside the Trailblazer didn't react to the Black Tide, so despite its properties, it sounds like it may not be a Stellaron. Although we know far too little, I do have a weird idea about it. If Amphoreus is, indeed, a small-scale replica of the entire universe, then it must also contain a Stellaron inside, since they exist in the universe. But just like the Aeons have been recreated as the Titans, so has the Stellaron as something similar, the Black Tide. This could potentially mean two things. Either Nous implemented a Stellaron-like entity inside Amphoreus to complete the small-scale replica of the universe in order to find the answer they've been looking for, or, better yet, the Stellaron is actually Terminus's creation. We've been told multiple times that the Stellaron may be connected to Nanook since they appear wherever a Stellaron is, but think about what we learn on Amphoreus. Nicador, who mirrors Nanook, was also believed to have brought the Black Tide to Amphoreus, but the truth was that they had always fought it to protect the planet, which led to the misunderstanding. As a consequence, Nanook didn't cause the Stellaron, their real goal is to destroy it. Now, if the Stellaron is a creation of the finality, then Amphoreus may be Terminus's testing site to decide what to do in the next iteration of the universe, like which Aeon to keep and which to discard, reason why there are only 12 Titans and not 17, in order to finally break free of their primal mobile that forces them to restart the universe over and over again. And that's it, I hope you liked the video. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, and if you're interested in Star Rail and Genshin Impact theory videos, consider subscribing. I think my next video will probably be about Genshin Impact 5.5, so the ending of the Ochkanatlan story, the Collective of Plenty, and of course there's a big chance I'll make a video about the 3 Moon Goddesses considering the current web event. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, over and out.